What happened after George Muller died in 1898 was that he had already provided for uh, the succession as a director during the years that he was away travelling all around the world. Then his son-in-law, James Wright, took responsibility for the homes, and there were a number of directors that actually followed James Wright over the years. So the work continued, and but the work has changed as well over the years. Obviously, the orphanage work was at its height in the 1870s, 1880s, and then by the time you get to the 1890s and 1900s, the number of orphan children was diminishing considerably. And even the First World War didn't make a lot of difference, or even the Second World War didn't make a lot of difference to the number of orphan children. But also, as you move into the 20th century, the thought of caring for children in big, large, communal orphanage buildings where bedrooms had 80 beds in them, and dining facilities were all communal, heavy discipline, and children were separated from their siblings and their families for all sorts of good organisational reasons. But people started to say, was this the right way to bring up children and to care for children? And then gradually all those organisations that George Muller profoundly influenced by, like Barnardo's and Spurgeon's and Fegan's and the Church of England Children's Society as it's become today, all of those organisations started to rethink the way that they cared for children. And gradually the work moved away from caring for orphan children to caring for children in care. And as a result of all the reforms that followed the Second World War with the new Children's Act and so on, local authorities assumed responsibilities for caring for children in care. And so gradually Muller's moved from providing orphanage places to providing places in children's homes. And these were homes for children where they had house parents, and it will be small family units in different suburban parts of Bristol and Weston-super-Mare and local area. And Muller's established quite a few of these children's homes during the 1960s and 1970s, 1980s, until that went out of fashion as well, and fostering and adoption became the typical method of caring for children. And Muller's moved then out of residential childcare into caring on a daycare basis for children through family centres and daycare centres in different parts of Greater Bristol area. And that continued then until the early part of the 21st century, when even that was not considered to be any longer what Muller should actually be involved in. And Muller's then developed a scheme of partnering local churches, and that partnership scheme continues to this day, of helping churches to be more effective in their work with children, families and young people. And in many ways that's returning to what George Muller established right back in the 1830s, and that was that the orphan work grew out of his commitment as a local church pastor and seeing ways in which his church could impact the local community. And the orphanages grew out of that particular work. And to actually return to helping churches to be more effective in caring for their local community is a very biblical way of operating. And even in the last few years, Muller's has built on the work of the Scriptural Knowledge Institution, which is the oldest part of Muller's, in supporting missionaries and Christian workers all around the world, has actually extended that partnership scheme with local churches to include also working in partnership with missionaries who are working with children and families and young people all over the world. And it's significant that there are more children now being cared for through that part of the work than George Muller ever cared for during his lifetime in this country.